Hello, I'm Tommy Wolf from the Bartitsu Lab, and in this video we're going to look at a slightly different bare knuckle hitting system than I would typically look at, and that is Lethwei, and that is the Burmese/Myanmar style of boxing, or more appropriately kickboxing. So it feels and looks a lot like Muay Thai. Major differences: bare knuckle, so it's a bare knuckle fighting system. It allows headbutts, and there are also many varied and wonderful rules such as being knocked out, having a great deal of time to be revived and come back into the game. It's a really peculiar, interesting system, absolutely hard as fuck. There are fantastic materials out there already, and it's only going to grow larger, and I see it growing larger in parallel to modern bare knuckle boxing, which is fantastic. So, from my perspective, what do I enjoy about Lethwei, and what am I going to talk to you about today? And that is the raking style shots of their principally hand-led blows. So whilst their elbows and their knees look ostensibly like Thai, the use of the headbutts are relatively unique for them because they open up the aforementioned elbows and knees. Kicks look and feel a bit like Thai. The boxing, because it is bare knuckle, looks and feels somewhat different, and especially the raking blows. Now it's very, very common in Burmese boxing, in Lethwei, to use these four knuckles here. So as opposed to your main striking knuckles, using these door-knocking knuckles. And the reason that these are often used is that these little bastards are often very, very good at cutting and tearing flesh. Why would you want to do that? Well, if an opponent really struggles to see, if their face is torn up, if blood is going into the eyes, being able to effectively gauge distance, generate power, a lot of things go out the window when you can't really see. If you can't really see, it's very, very, very hard to fight. So again, one of the main reasons why the Lethwei guys will use these raking style shots is to open people up above or just underneath the eye. Now these areas bleed and swell profusely. Anyone that's done any degree of boxing, kickboxing, even wrestling when you're bumping heads, any kind of trauma above the eye, along this brown line, or just underneath, tends to rip and tear. It feels like a bag of shit, and you can't focus on your main task, which is being explosive, being able to judge range and be in the fight. So the Burmese boxers have this down pat. And whilst they've got, what we'd call in historical pugilism, many half-arm blows. So you see a lot of the Burmese boxers, they hit on a half-arm, as opposed to a full extended jab or cross. You see lots of things that come out about halfway, halfway, halfway. And again, they're being very measured with their knuckle discipline, where their knuckles end up on the opponent. So do watch out for that as a feature. It's less Western boxing orientated. I find it feels less fluid, but they are more measured, pom, pom, in having shorter distances between the fist and the face, and having very precise usage of the knuckles. But today we're looking at the raking shots. So they're to cut people open, cut above and below the eye, pour blood, make swelling happen, so that they can set up better shots. If the opponent can't see, the hook that might have really hurt is now the hook that knocks you out. The kick in the liver that would have really hurt before now takes you by complete surprise, and you're out the game. If you can't see, you can't perceive. And if you can't perceive or expect a strike coming, those are the ones that put you to sleep, put you to the mat. So again, taking away that visual component not only interrupts the opponent's ability to fight you, but also allows your techniques to take them a lot more by surprise, because they do not perceive them coming, they don't tense, they don't lock in their neck, because those microseconds that we would have had before to just see the technique and be ready psychologically to take it, we no longer have. So those raking techniques bear real fruit. And I'm going to go through a couple of examples. It's not like this is something that many people codify. There's not many people out there on a Lethwei syllabus going, right, these are the 6 official raking cuts. They're a natural manifestation that just come out of the sport because it works. So again, using these 4 knuckle areas, which again are not wrapped, even though it's an ungloved system, there is often the use of wraps. These are unwrapped. These knuckles are not wrapped at all, so you can really shred. If you put those door-knocking knuckles on your face and you strike them off as if you were striking a match, you can feel that with a bit of venom, you can really cause some nasty trauma in and around the eyes. So the door knocking raking strikes, I break them down as thus. You've got ones which are a bit more cat's paw-esque. So they go from an extended guard here, and it is like an aggressive knock on a door. So it comes down, knocking the door down. So from here you might move, you might block, you might cover, you might throw a leg click, you might do whatever you want to do, and then so in this instance, I'm just going to throw away a little teep down low. Can't really do it, Bob doesn't have legs and it really fucking hurts and I've got no shoes on. But just an example, you might throw something down low, rip down up top, boom. And again, you'll be looking to strike down above the eyebrow, raking that down the face. You throw something, round kick, whatever you're going to do, knee to the thigh, whatever, boom, and it comes down. And again, twisting with it. You know, really kind of, you don't want to be like one of those Chinese cats. You don't want to just do this. You really want to rip down on it. You want this to hit percussively and tear. That Lethwei style door knocking shot. So I'd say one which comes down, an overhand version, is typically after a knee, a kick, something happens down low, and then as the attention is down here, bang, ripping down either way. One. Coming down here, turning the hips, using the shoulders, really ripping this and making sure we come back to efficient guard. So, you know, we may rip this and then follow with something else. Whatever you want it to do. That Lethwei style door knocking overhand. It can come at further range. So from here you might feint the jab and wrap this over. But in reality it's more to the middle / close area. Not quite clinch range, but kind of pre-clinch, dirty boxing range. From here, ripping it down. You've then got hook iterations. So as well as coming down, you've got versions that come in, like this, and out, like a pivot blow or an edge of hand blow. So whether you're ripping in or ripping out, again, using these 4 knuckles. Now, you don't need to exaggerate them, so you don't need to do something like a leopard fist or something you might see in other Asian arts. You can do this perfectly well with a normal boxing fist, or you can relax just a little. So you can relax the hand just a little so it opens up, because again we want these to have prominence. So again it's a slicing, cutting tool. So we've got the overhand versions, something goes down low, boom, boom. I might just block, boom, boom. A hook version which will come in, and again this is a little bit closer. So in this version you're almost eye wiping. And again, it's about torquing the hip, torquing the shoulder, ripping those 4 knuckles across the head. So you end up in this nasty area. You might be headbutting, they'll be headbutting back, it's Lethwei. You might post their head up here to prevent that headbutt, get inside their elbow range, and rip this right across the eye in that short, sharp hook. I'd say the difference is, uses the hinge of your elbow a lot more. So the hinge of the elbow adds a bit more spice to it. But always being mindful of the headbutt at this range. So often you'll see that they'll post their hand against the head to get their own headbutts in or to prevent it coming against them. So it could be block, post, and again, it's about causing trauma around the eyes. It may well be that you're already in clinch range, so you're already fighting for this kind of clinch. You're already moving, mauling, pushing, pulling, ragging, all of the lovely stuff that comes with a clinch. And maybe you just get that second to place and then rip. So as well as being an active striking tool, overhand, or in or out, it can also be that you place, so you get the knuckles, you get some sense of traction, and then score it off. And again, if you try and do that to your own face, you can feel how nasty those tears and cuts can be. So place and rip, place and rip. And that could be in any direction, obviously. So you could rip up, you could rip out, you could rip down. Always to use those Lethwei door knocking knuckles. Now obviously I talked about many of the punches being designed to rip, to tear, to make people bleed. So that the elbow, the knee, the kicks, the headbutts, the things that are more percussive, knock you out and take you by surprise. A small difference, perhaps, and I talked about the punches typically being half-arm blows. So coming from a more considered position, a bit closer to the opponent. Another thing that you consider though, is that you see shots that come down, raking like a hammer fist, but it's the knuckles that hit and rip. So if you imagine a normal hammer fist uses the bottom of the hand. Nice and simple. In this version, the hand goes down like the walking beam of a locomotive, and the knuckles are raking down the face. So again, this is an example of punching to cut and rip. It's not punching to have percussion, it's to rip, to slice. And again, if you try it against your own face or gently against a partner, if you feel how these knuckles work raking down, they can cause some nasty friction, some nasty cuts. So again, from hands traditionally held up high, you might check, you might block, and you fire the hammer fist, but it's to rake. Boom, wham, boom, wham, boom, wham. So you're raking the knuckles down the face. And again, this could be targeting above the eye or below the eye. Above the eye, below the eye. If it hits centre of face, it's still going to really fucking hurt as it's mashing into the nose and the mouth. But predominantly from a high guard, you might block, you might kick, you might teep, you might knee, whatever you're going to do. And then, wham! Or you might mix this in with your boxing. So you might do a half-arm jab. Then you might decide to do that raking knuckle-led hammer fist shot. Let's call it a knuckle hammer, for want of a better phrase. So again, you might do a half-arm, more pouring jab. And then do the knuckle hammer. So again, there are a number of ways to tear up an opponent's face. Another way, obviously, is with when you start to do spinning back fists and other elements like that. Again, these are tearing style blows. The good thing about spinning back fist is at any range, it can become an elbow, a forearm. You know, it's got solid percussion to it. It can hit and rip, but in reality, it's a percussive shot. So I think if you're going to explore playing with some of the Lethwei cutting style boxing, practice moving off the half arm, you know, keeping it short, sharp, concise, and halfway out. And you see this in Western pugilism too, these half arm blows. Practice the overhand door knocking, block, counter, whatever, boom, ripping straight down. You've got, once you're in close, the four knuckle hooks. You've got the placement and rip, so make the contact, rip up, out or down. And then you've got the knuckle hammer. Again, this can be part of boxing. Or indeed it can come like before. You know, that short, sharp, explosive dig down. Just to rip open above and around the eyes. My personal favourite is just blending in from a higher, more traditional or extended guard, that block, and then just wrap it straight down. And again, you could combine that with other percussive tools. So it might be block, rip, elbow, or block, rip, hook, whatever you want to do. They're a good thing to play with your pugilism. Obviously, they come from more of a sporting background for Lethwei. You know, it's designed to have efficacy later in the rounds. But even if you consider boxing for self-defense, if you can rip, if you can cut, if you can obscure vision, you know, the opponent bleeding is often very demoralising. The fact that you're shredded is demoralising. You look and feel sometimes like you've lost, and therefore you have lost. But that ripping, that tearing will pay dividends. You know, is it as important as percussive striking? No, but is it a tool you can play with? These four knuckles, they're pretty robust if you deliver them in a strategic way. Wrapping down, wrapping in, wrapping out, or using those knuckle hammers. It's a different way to work in hammer fist style shots. So Lethwei boxing, it's a bare knuckle boxing tradition that we can learn things from, bring in, optimise, play with and explore. So look it up, have a play, watch some matches, give it a go. Be very careful if you're ever doing anything like this in sparring, but again, get a good feel for it. Many of the techniques, you think they're not going to feel that good, as soon as you give them a go, you can feel the amount of venom and force you can get into those overhand ripping full knuckle based shots. So give it a play.